In the midst of a violent storm, a child's life hung by a thread, helpless against the raging waters that were pulling him under. But then a figure appeared, one that no one believed could make a difference. Hello, everyone. Enjoy these relaxing moments as you watch. Lily Foster, a woman without hands, defied the odds in a way no one could have anticipated. Using nothing but her feet to guide her, she leaped into the dangerous floodwaters, determined to save a boy she had never met. Who was this boy, and why was Lily willing to risk everything for him? What bond could form in such a moment of peril? As the storm raged on and their world turned upside down, neither Lily nor the boy, Michael, knew that this one act of courage would change both of their lives forever. What happens next is a story of resilience, love, and a family built not by blood but by choice. Join us as we dive into a tale that will challenge everything you thought you knew about family and what it truly means to belong. You won't believe what happens next. Keep watching. It was a storm like no other. The sky was an angry shade of gray, with thunder booming in the distance and relentless rain coming down in torrents. The town of Pine Brook, a small, quiet village in the southern United States, had never witnessed a storm this fierce. But on the outskirts of town, beside the river in a humble cottage that many overlooked, Lily Foster was preparing for something far greater than the storm. Lily was known throughout Pine Brook for her resilience. She had lost her arms in a tragic accident when she was a young woman. Yet, that didn't stop her from building a life for herself. With no hands, she had learned to do everything with her feet: cooking, cleaning, and even tending to her garden. People often stopped by her home, amazed at the way she had adapted. But there was something else they didn't know. Lily had a heart as vast as the sky, possessing a remarkable gift for seeing the potential in others and believing when no one else did. That night, however, as the storm raged on, Lily wasn't thinking about her garden or her simple life. She was consumed by thoughts of a boy she had met just days earlier. His name was Michael, a small, scrappy child barely 10 years old who had been wandering the streets of Pine Brook for weeks. He wore tattered clothes and his eyes were always darting around, filled with fear and hunger. He never spoke much, merely wandering from house to house, asking for scraps of food or a place to sleep. Most villagers would ignore him, even shoo him away, but not Lily. When she had first seen Michael huddling by the roadside, soaked to the bone in the pouring rain, she felt a stirring deep in her chest. She couldn't explain why, but she knew she had to help him. Lily invited him into her home, shared her meager meal, and in that moment, Michael looked at her with wide, astonished eyes, as if he had never been shown kindness before. But that night, as the storm grew fiercer, Lily's thoughts turned dark. The river near her cottage, which had been nothing more than a gentle stream, had swelled into a raging torrent. The sounds of water crashing against the banks grew louder with each passing minute. The town had been warned about the storm, but no one expected the river to flood so quickly. Lily's mind raced as she scanned the room, checking the windows and ensuring everything was secured. Although she had lived through her share of storms, this one felt different. Something told her that danger was coming, and she had to be prepared. Just as she finished securing the last window, a loud bang rattled the house, and the door to her cottage flew open. Through the howling wind, she could hear Michael's frantic and terrified voice calling her name. "Lily, Lily, help me!" His voice was drowned out by the sound of the storm, but Lily recognized the tone of panic when she heard it. Without hesitation, she dashed to the door. The moment she opened it, the force of the wind almost knocked her off her feet. Stepping into the storm, she squinted against the torrential rain, barely able to see anything in the darkness, but there was no mistaking the sight of Michael struggling to stay on his feet in the rising water. "Michael!" she screamed, her voice barely audible over the roar of the floodwaters. His small frame was almost swallowed by the waves as he fruitlessly tried to stay afloat, but the current was too strong, and Lily could see him being pulled away from her, helplessly lost in the torrent. Without a second thought, Lily ran toward him, her heart pounding in her chest as she waded into the water, using her feet to propel herself forward. She had to save him. There was no other choice. As she struggled through the mud and debris, her body ached from the effort, but she didn't stop. She could feel the cold, rushing water seep into her shoes, yet her focus remained solely on Michael. She cared not that she had no hands or that her legs quaked with exhaustion. All she could think about was reaching him before the river took him away. Then, just as it seemed all hope was lost, Lily saw Michael's hands shoot up from beneath the water, reaching out to her in desperation. "I've got you!" Lily shouted, her voice filled with determination. With every ounce of strength remaining, Lily used her feet to grip the rope she had tied to a nearby tree, wrapping it around her waist. With her body almost parallel to the water, she threw herself toward Michael. The water was violent, but Lily's determination was stronger. She reached out with her feet and grasped Michael's outstretched hand, pulling him toward her with a strength she didn't know she possessed. The effort took everything in her, every ounce of energy she had. But finally, they reached the bank. Michael collapsed in her arms, gasping for breath. Lily held him close, trying to shield him from the storm. For a moment, there was nothing but the sound of the rain and their labored breathing. Lily looked down at Michael, whose small body trembled, his face pale with fear. "You're safe now," she whispered softly, brushing his wet hair from his face. "I'm here. I won't let you go." As they clung to one another, the storm continued to rage around them, but for Lily and Michael, it didn't matter. She had saved him, and in return, he had given her a purpose she hadn't known she was missing. What would you have done in Lily's shoes? Would you have risked your life to save a child you barely knew? The storm raged for hours, but when dawn finally broke, the sky was clear, though the air was thick with the aftermath of the flood. The river had subsided, leaving behind a trail of destruction. But for Lily and Michael, the worst was over, or so they thought. Exhausted and drenched, Lily sat by the hearth in her small cottage. The rain had stopped, but her mind still reeled from the events of the night. She had never been one to dwell on the past, yet the image of Michael's terrified face struggling against the current replayed in her mind. She couldn't shake the thought that if she had been even a second slower, she would have lost him. Michael sat across from her, still shaking, but now wrapped in a thick blanket Lily had managed to scrounge up. His clothes were still soggy, his hair plastered to his forehead, and his eyes were wide with a haunted expression. It was clear that the boy had never been shown kindness like this before. Lily watched him closely, trying to interpret his emotions. He was silent, a rare sight for a boy who usually couldn't stop talking. But then again, he had just endured a trauma that would leave anyone speechless. Lily knew Michael was no ordinary child. He had lived a life of hardship, likely more than most adults could endure. He had no family, no home, and no one had ever truly taken the time to care for him. That was until Lily, a woman who had no hands but more love than anyone could imagine, took him in. As the days passed after the storm, Michael began to change. He was no longer the frightened boy who had clung to Lily's legs the first night he arrived. Slowly, he started to open up inch by inch. His eyes, which had once been dull and fearful, now held a spark of curiosity. He began to help her with small tasks around the house, bringing in firewood and, to Lily's surprise, even attempting to assist with cooking, using his small hands to set the table. One evening, while preparing a simple stew over the stove, Lily noticed Michael sitting quietly by the window, staring out at the small garden she had tended to for years. The garden had always been her pride and joy. While it wasn't large, it was lush and filled with flowers, herbs, and vegetables, one of the few things she had been able to maintain after losing her arms. Lily saw Michael's longing gaze and smiled softly. "Would you like to help me plant some seeds, Michael?" she asked gently, uncertain if he even knew how to do something like that. Michael's eyes lit up, and for the first time in days, he gave her a genuine smile. I don't know how to plant," he said, his voice small. "That's okay," Lily replied, leaning down to grab a handful of seeds. "I'll show you. It's not hard. You see, just like life, you plant seeds, you nurture them, and they grow. That's how things change." Michael watched as she used her feet to push the seeds into the soil, each movement deliberate and graceful. He had never seen anyone do anything like that before. As amazed as he was by her ability to perform everyday tasks with her feet, this was different. This was life-changing. Over the next few weeks, Lily and Michael spent their evenings in the garden. She taught him how to plant, water, and care for the plants. They talked about life, and Lily shared stories of her childhood and how she had remained strong, even when the world tried to tell her she was weak. Michael slowly began to reveal bits and pieces of his own past, unearthing the dark secrets he had kept buried for so long. One night, as they sat on the porch watching the stars, Michael finally opened up about what had haunted him most, the reason he had been living on the streets. My mom left me," Michael said quietly, his voice trembling. "I was just a little boy, and one day she disappeared. I never knew where she went. I had to survive on my own, begging for food, hiding from people who would hurt me. It was just me." Lily's heart broke for the boy who had never known the warmth of a mother's embrace or the comfort of a home. She reached out, placing her foot gently on his shoulder, offering him the comfort she knew how to give. "You're not alone anymore, Michael," she said, her voice firm. "I may not be your real mother, but I'll always be here for you. You don't have to go through this alone." The bond between them was undeniable. Over time, Michael began to heal. He was no longer the scared, hungry child who had wandered the streets. He was evolving into someone new, someone full of hope, even if he didn't fully believe it yet. And Lily, despite everything she had endured, found herself becoming someone new as well. She had someone to care for, someone to share her life with. In return, Michael had found a place where he truly belonged. But just when it seemed that life was finally on the right path, something unexpected happened that would test their bond in unimaginable ways. One evening, a knock came at the door. When Lily opened it, she found a man standing on her porch, his face solemn. "I'm sorry to disturb you, ma'am," the man said, tipping his hat, "but I've been looking for this boy." He held up a photo of Michael from when he was much younger, his face dirty and thin. "Is he here?" Lily's heart skipped a beat, but she stood tall, her voice unwavering. "Who are you?" The man's eyes narrowed. "I'm a social worker. His mother reported him missing months ago, and we've been trying to track him down." Lily felt the ground beneath her feet shift. She had known Michael's past was dark, but hadn't realized how close the truth was. Was she about to lose him? Was this the end of everything they had built together? What would you do if someone from Michael's past came looking for him? Would you let him go or fight to keep the bond you formed? Let us know in the comments what you would choose and why. The air felt heavy with tension as the social worker stood on Lily's doorstep, his expression unreadable. Michael, who had been playing in the corner of the room, froze when he saw the photo in the man's hands. He didn't need to ask who it was. He recognized himself in the picture, a version of himself he barely remembered. "Michael," Lily's voice was soft but steady, trying to reach him without scaring him away. "Who is this man?" Michael's heart pounded in his chest. For a moment, he couldn't speak. He felt trapped, as though the walls were closing in around him. All he had known was the warmth of Lily's home, her love, and care. But now, that very foundation seemed to be crumbling away before him. "This is my mother's lawyer," Michael whispered, his voice barely audible. He looked up at Lily, confusion and fear in his eyes. "They've been looking for me for months. They said I was a missing child." The social worker stepped forward, extending a hand toward Michael. "We've been trying to find you, son. Your mother wants to bring you back. She's been very worried." Michael's stomach twisted in knots. He didn't know what to feel. Part of him was relieved to hear that his mother was still alive, but another part felt an overwhelming sense of betrayal. He had waited years for her return, yet when she vanished, she left him to fend for himself. How could she suddenly care now? Lily could see the turmoil in Michael's eyes and knew this moment would define everything they had built. She stepped in front of him, placing herself between him and the social worker. "He's not going anywhere," Lily said firmly, her voice unshakable. "Michael has a home here now. He's part of my family, and nothing will change that." The social worker hesitated, then nodded, a quiet understanding passing between them. "I'm not here to cause trouble, ma'am. I'm just doing my job. If Michael chooses to stay, that's his decision." The weight of those words hit Michael like a punch to the gut. He was free to choose. For so long, he had felt powerless at the mercy of others. But now, for the first time in his life, he had control over his future. Michael turned to Lily, his eyes searching hers. In her gaze, he found not just a protector, but a mother. The kind of mother he had always dreamed of. The love and acceptance she had shown him were worth more than anything his biological mother could offer. He had found a family in Lily, one that didn't judge him, one that embraced him for who he was, not for who he was supposed to be. Lily knelt to Michael's level, her feet gently touching the ground as she looked him in the eyes. "Michael, you are not alone anymore. You've been through so much, but now you have a place here with me. You're my son. No matter what happens, I'll always be here for you." The words broke something inside Michael, something that had been shattered for a long time but had never truly healed. He had never known what it meant to belong, to have someone genuinely care for him. Now, as he looked at Lily, he realized he had found the family he never thought he would have. His heart swelled with emotion, and he rushed to hug her, his small body trembling with gratitude and love. "I want to stay with you, Lily," Michael said, his voice thick with emotion. "I don't want to go back to her. I have a family here. I have you." Lily hugged him tightly, her heart bursting with pride and love for the boy she had saved and who had saved her in return. "You'll always have a place here, Michael. Always." The social worker gave them a final respectful nod before turning to leave, leaving Lily and Michael to embrace the life they had built together. The storm had passed, but what emerged from it was something far more powerful, a bond that couldn't be broken by time, distance, or blood. As the weeks went by, Michael and Lily continued to build their lives together. Lily helped Michael enroll in school, and he quickly excelled, showing a natural talent for writing and art. He finally let his creativity shine, something that had been stifled for so long. As he grew older, Michael began to understand the true meaning of family. Years later, after graduating from high school with honors, he stood on the porch of their little home, gazing out over the garden he had helped plant with Lily all those years ago. He had come so far from the scared, hungry child left on the streets to a confident young man with a future ahead of him, all thanks to the woman who had never given up on him. Lily stood beside him, a proud smile on her face. She had watched him grow into someone truly remarkable, someone who had overcome every obstacle life had thrown at him. Though her own journey had been challenging, she had discovered what truly mattered: love, family, and the power of second chances. "You did it, Michael," Lily said softly, her voice filled with pride. Michael turned to her, his eyes brimming with gratitude. "We did it, Lily. I couldn't have done it without you." And in that moment, as they stood together, the world seemed to fade away. They had created something beautiful, a family forged in the fires of hardship, love, and an unbreakable bond. What do you think about Michael's decision to stay with Lily instead of going back to his biological mother? Do you believe it was the right choice for him? How would you have reacted if you were in his shoes? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you were moved by this story, don't forget to hit like, share, and leave a comment to show your support. We'd love to hear where you're watching from. Let us know your country in the comments.